Here we are in the last part of the House Arrest Bible study. We're in chapter 4, the very beginning of the chapter. I hope you've been enjoying this. I certainly have. As we go into chapter 4, Paul, he drills deeply into his theme in Philippians, his theme of joy. And he tells us that joy comes as a result of the last thing he said in chapter 3. He begins chapter 4 by saying, therefore, and that therefore is there for the purpose of helping us see how the transformation that God is going to work ultimately in our bodies, as well as the control that he exerts over all the universe, is going to help us achieve the joy that he talks about. Now, as we're talking about the first part of chapter 4, it helps to think about it in 3 different sections. Verse 1 is a section unto itself. Verses 2 and 3 are a section, and verses 4 to 7, and that's as far as we're going in the chapter this time around. So in verse 1, we've already talked about how he is encouraging us toward joy. In verses 2 and 3, he's talking about 2 women, Euodia and Syntyche, and they can't seem to get along. And so Paul is kind of telling them that their situation can be improved by focusing on the joy that he's encouraging them toward. And he's asking the rest of the church in Philippi to encourage them and help them to get along. So in verses 4 to 7, he really focuses on joy. He talks about thankfulness. He talks about rejoicing. He talks about all these great things that help to lift our spirits and our hearts toward the Lord. So I want you to think about, especially this last section, verses 4 to 7, and think about the times that God has used thankfulness and rejoicing and these kinds of virtues and positive attitudes to help us in our spiritual walk. They're very powerful. And Paul is winding up his letter to the Philippians talking about these things to a church that already knows how to do things well, but he's encouraging them to continue doing things better